So I'll go through these fairly quickly, and then we'll jump into the demo. Okay, so I'm going to concentrate on GenerateBlocks, but there's also GeneratePress, which is the theme from the same company, and there's a free and paid version. This is the free version, pretty popular. In my opinion, though, if you're going to use the theme, you probably want the premium version because there's certain features like editing the footer, which you can't really do with the free version. So they have, oh, that's new. Maintenance mode. Let's see. I hope they didn't raise prices on us. Okay. Check back in a minute. Okay. So this is GenerateBlocks. Also, they have a free version and a paid version. The paid version Pro has two new blocks. I might not be able to get to it from here. Let's see the Pro page under maintenance too. That's strange. Okay, so the Pro version has the tabs and accordion blocks. And those are the only two new blocks. But in my opinion, the global styles feature is the biggest reason to go Pro. And that's what I'm going to concentrate on with this demo. Right, I'll check back on those. This is a useful plugin. I think I've mentioned this in other presentations, but if you need to find where you're using GenerateBlocks, I like this one. You can find other blocks on other pages too. So if you ever need to change your block plugin or you need to remove it, it's a good idea to find all instances before you just remove a plugin, and you may not like what happens to the blocks. I don't know if what they would get converted to if you just get rid of the plugin. So anyway, so I'll show you this in the demo as well. This is a useful resource for the styles in GenerateBlocks. These are predefined ones. So you'll see these when I go into the global styles. This is a nice little reference page for where they're being used. Okay. Another one is if anybody is already using GenerateBlocks Pro and the global styles, there's no automatic migration. So you have to go through a bit of an annoying manual process to move your global styles over to the new system. And this, this goes through the process, and there's a video as well. If you haven't used global styles yet, then you don't have to worry about this. Okay. This is the change log, and this is just this last one with some fixes, but these are the major changes. GenerateBlocks 1.9 and GenerateBlocks Pro 1.7. These were the major changes with the pattern library and the global styles changes. And then they have some other little features that for quality of life, as they say. And then there's some YouTube resources that I like using. This is the official GeneratePress channel. They were quiet for a while, but as of, what was it, like a month ago? Yeah, so a month, and then the next one was 2 years previously. So about a month ago, when they came out with the new versions of GenerateBlocks, they brought out some new videos, and these are pretty useful. A lot of short ones. Then there's the admin bar, which is a really good resource. This has some more advanced things. So like this thing is pretty cool. I haven't played around with it myself, but there's some fancier design things that he talks about. But there's a lot of good information, and he explains kind of like the rationale behind doing things in a certain way. So this is a really good resource. Some of these can get a little bit technical if you're not if you're not as up to speed in some like CSS and some other things. But anyway, it's a really good channel. This video, I'm going to show reusable components, and then this is a video that I thought was very useful. You can make the example he has here is making like 3 different container presets, and then a grid preset. Which after watching this, I realized this makes my life a lot easier rather than having to click around doing the same container settings. And then WP Tuts is another good one. This one has a playlist for GeneratePress and GenerateBlocks. This is in reverse chronological order, so if you do want to watch all of them, I suggest starting at the bottom and then going up. Then it'll make a little more sense. Okay, so those are the resources. And then before I jump into the demo, I guess if anybody has any questions, we'll stop for those. Nope. Okay, I'm going to close those tabs to clear this up. Okay, so I have 2 local sites here. This one is using the 2024 theme and GenerateBlocks. And then I had Pro activated, but I just turned it off so I can show the difference. So let's see where I should start. Okay, so I guess first I can show close these things. Okay, so first thing, the blocks that are available. So if you haven't used GenerateBlocks, they are in blue, which makes it easier to spot. So this is just using the free version. And then I'll open up a page. This one has Pro enabled. And so this one has the 2 extra blocks here. So, so if you're not familiar with this container, that is it more of a layout block. And usually you're going to have an outer container and an inner container. And this would be for something like on this demo page where you might want something to go like these 3 columns to have a maximum width, but then maybe you want a background color to go full width. So you would have an outer container that would have the background color, and the inner container would have a maximum width that would line up here. So containers are, very useful. I use those for everything. Everything goes inside of a container. Then there's the grid, where you can have 2 columns, 3 columns, or all sorts of options there. The query loop is if you wanted to show posts, like for any kind of archive. It could be categories, or it could be custom post type. Tabs, accordions, buttons, those are pretty self-explanatory, I think. Headlines are a little different because they're not just for regular headlines. They are for any, uh, you can use them for paragraphs and divs as well. And this is a bit of a weird naming convention. I'm not sure if I could come up with something better, but uh, this essentially gives you more styling controls than a normal paragraph or heading that you get in the default blocks. I'll just put a couple of those in here. Okay, well, this is a paragraph. So here you have very basic things with typography. You can change the text color and the background, and then you could put in your own classes. But that's about it. And with a heading, it's the same thing. There's very few options. But with GenerateBlocks, you have all sorts of other options with the layout, um, sizing, spacing, borders, text, colors, icon, etc. And so what I would do is I would use this for paragraphs and divs as well. If I wanted to style some text that wasn't actually a heading level. And then they have the image as well. So I'll put one of those in and a normal image. So the normal image doesn't have a lot of options here, but as you can see with GenerateBlocks, they have a lot more. Like you have all the spacing, padding, borders, etc. So, so my usage of GenerateBlocks is I tend to use I replace normal headings with GenerateBlocks headlines. Some of the normal paragraphs I replace with headlines as well, and I just change them to either a paragraph or div. I change the images as well. And then containers, I usually don't even use groups anymore in the normal block editor. Let's see. Yeah, so yeah, the normal, I think James, you might be referring to the groups with the normal containers or maybe like the columns. And yeah, so I never liked those. These containers, like it does take a little bit of time to get used to, uh, but there's a lot more you can do with it. Okay, so those
Hey,
are the blocks.
hey, Doug.
And yep,
Yeah, can I ask you a question? Do
sure.
you use the grid anymore? I mean, doesn't the container cover whatever the grid is doing?
I think you usually have to use a grid inside the container if you want multiple columns. Um, like if you wanted, say if I wanted, well, I guess I'll have to put these into containers. So this is a nice, I think this is pretty new, where you can just click on something and add it to a container. And then I can put all these inside of a container as well. Okay, so if I do a normal container,
Oh, that's nice.
let's see, I guess you could change it. I don't know if this will work. Does that work?
Yeah.
33. 33%. And
You
then,
won't have the grid controls though. That includes gap. So if
yeah,
you don't use grid.
yeah. So you can kind of make it columns like you do inline block. I'm still not that familiar with Flex, but
Well,
you could do some of that.
yeah,
But
but
I think I would prefer the grid.
You can use gaps with Flex.
yeah, you can. Should.
Is
Be-
working.
Anyway.
Oh,
Oh, that would be up on the first container, I think.
oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I usually just use the grid and,
Okay.
let that work. But yeah, there might be a way to do it that way. Let's see. Yeah. So yeah, I usually just do, I think I've always used the settings within block editor. I don't think I've had to add any custom CSS to do stuff. But then again, I don't think I've had to do anything too fancy. All right, so I'm gonna undo until these are separate containers. Okay, and then I believe if you do this, and this is fairly new, you could add these to a row, and then I believe, oh no, this does actually do the same thing. I thought it did a grid, but I guess not. Okay, so yeah, so that's, I guess, one way to do it. I will try to do a grid. All right, so we'll do a container, inner container, and then grid 3. Then I'll drag these in. Okay, so this is how it would look in a grid. And you horizontal gap. Yeah, it's only one row, so you can't see the vertical gap. But yeah, we can change the alignment, stuff like that. Someone have their hand raised, I think I saw.
I was just curious, what's the difference now between the container, the one above that, and below it? Because it looks almost, the first one you were working with at the very
Yeah.
top.
That is a good question. I mean, this is you can use Flex. This isn't really my area of expertise. I never really learned how to do all this stuff from scratch. I kind of just copied existing templates. But I think grid, I feel like grid is a little easier to grasp for me, or at least maybe I'm just more used to it.
Yeah, no,
But,
I was just figuring if it looks like that without the grid, then I was wondering, let's say if you put 3 more containers in, would it continue going to the left and we don't see it, or does it start like?
No, yeah, it would wrap down. So if I
Anyway, just curious.
last one. Yeah, so if I duplicate that, it goes down here. So this is preferable to, like, if you used a page builder where you had rows and columns. If you added, say you had 3 things and then you wanted to add a 4th one, you'd have to add a new row. And then suppose you wanted to add a new item in between 1 and 2, then you'd have to drag the order of all of these. And if you had something huge where you had, like, 30 items, say 10 rows of 3 columns, and then you wanted to add something in the 2nd position, and then you had to drag everything around, it gets to be a pain. But if you use grid, and I guess you could probably do it with the with Flex as well, then you can just add it in the position that you want, and as long as you have everything set up correctly, they should all be styled, to flow down into the correct spot, and then you can change the number.
That's what Flex is? When you say Flex, it kind of sorts itself out. Is that what you mean by Flex?
So maybe somebody else understands this better, but what I'm saying is just the Flex option here.
I can explain it pretty simply, and then you'll want to research it on your own. But Flex and Grid are 2 different ways to lay out your layout. And each of them has inherent pluses and minuses to it, but one of them is stronger at one aspect than the other. But both of them can be used to accomplish the basic stuff that you're seeing on the screen now.
Copy that. Thanks, guys.
The interesting thing about the grid, block is that it actually uses Flexbox.
Oh, does it really? I didn't know that.
The naming of things, so.
Um,
I guess one other thing to add to that is those of us that are familiar, I'm not 100% familiar with it, but we use both grid and flex in combination with each other all the time. Just saying. So when you research it, keep that in mind.
Yeah, the way I understand grid and flex is that flex works horizontally and grid works vertically. So if you combine the two, they'll be able to kind of work in tandem together to create
Well,
composite that you would want.
yeah, grid actually uses it in both directions, and as a row or column, and flex is either or. You can go stack it up and down, or it can go left or right, but it can't do both. So that's the nice thing about grid. But yeah, it's
Hey, it's good to know.
Oh, and one more thing about grid is you can have things show up out of order. Like if you have some,
oh,
you
yeah.
can move things around and specify exactly where you want them to be. One time I had that need, so.
Yeah, I think it's this one. So this, if we change this to 4. So this one is the first item, generate press theme. So if I change that to 4, that'll jump down here.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Doug, carry on, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that was the main blocks. And what I go to next? Okay, so I'll talk about the pattern library. So the free version of GenerateBlocks has some patterns, and then you get even more with the pro version. And this is in a strange place. So normally when you use patterns, you would go here, insert patterns, but you actually don't find them here. These are just some that I've created. You go here, explore all patterns. Okay, these were just the ones that I created. Where are the generate blocks patterns? And you have to go over here, click this icon in the upper right, and then you open the pattern library here. So that's a bit strange. Actually, I'll go to the other page where I added some patterns already. Hang on. Let me move some of these around. Okay, so this is, just want to make sure I have the 2 sites separate. Okay. So I'm going to close this page without saving. And then demo page 1, 2. Yep. Okay. So on this one, I added a bunch of the presets or the patterns, and then I added a couple images. Okay. All right. So I will add a new pattern here. Oh, actually, I'll go here first. This is the one without GenerateBlocks Pro. Okay, so I think the F is for the free versions, and you'll see here it says free. And so there are, there's a decent number of these. And one of the nice things is that it does inherit any styles that you have or that you set. So if you changed the button color, this will look a little closer. It may not be exactly, but it'll be closer to your actual design. So it helps to see what you might like when you're browsing through the pattern library. But yeah, as you can see, there's some here, but like CTA, there's only one of them. FAQ, there's only one. There's a few featured. And if we go to the one with Pro, there's a lot more that are available. Okay, so let's see, I'll just add this one, FAQ. Okay, and so I'm still not crazy about the naming of patterns, because to me, there should be a better term for this. It's really like demo content, I guess I would call it. Because to me, a pattern is something that repeats over and over again. And you would use a pattern library for things that you might only use once. So you can use the pattern library to add content. And then you can actually save what used to be called reusable blocks. Now it's a synced pattern. So you could have it synced, or you could turn this off if you don't want it to be synced and you just want it to be kind of a custom pattern that you can drop in, but you're going to have different content. Okay, so I guess I'll go into an example of one of these. I'll stop for any questions.
So can I ask you a question here about the, it says section up there underneath the list view. Is that where they
Yep.
add that? Do you manually add that in there?
Yeah, so that is
All the way down somewhere, yeah.
go.
There
Yeah,
you go.
so this is
They hit it.
Yeah. Yeah, the block. Well, there's so many options, and you have to like open up these accordions.
Yeah.
I don't. Is this? So I'm just so used to using GenerateBlocks. I don't know if this is only a GenerateBlocks feature, or if it's in normal blocks. But you have the block label where you can change what appears here on the list view.
That's normal and that's in the block editor.
Okay.
Can you
Um,
open the tag name option to see, is there a section available there? There is.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, you could change that. This
Yeah, that would be better.
yeah. Yeah, that's a little odd. But so I pulled these straight in from the pattern library.
Hmm.
And so they came with the section block label on them. But yeah, these should be this is
Yeah.
something I always forget about, but I should get better at changing the tag. But I think most of the times you're just going to be using sections
Right.
if you're dealing with main content.
Right.
If you're using a template, you'd probably use article, header, footer, and a side would probably be the sidebar.
Yeah, the block
But-
the block label is just a label. It's just a name, like a tag or something. The tag name div versus section, those are HTML attributes. So it changes the HTML under code in the DOM, so that div now is a section, which has a very specific HTML function as opposed to a div.
Yeah, so this one, I think, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but if it goes like full width, that should probably be a section. And then the inner container should probably stay divs.
Yeah. Oh, well, a section is
Anything
like
else?
it's like a area on your web page that's specific content all grouped together. So you'd group your hero would be a section, your call to action might be another section. Depends on your layout, but that's
It's a big help in terms of screen readers for people to navigate that have disabilities to have them called out as sections if it's all related content, like Eagle said.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's very important for screen readers.
Okay, so so I'm going to show a what are these called again? Synced pattern. Okay, so so from there was that YouTube video from the admin bar, and so I just made the same things from that video, and I'll just show you how they can be used. So I think I put those in demo page 2. Yep. Okay. So, all right. So what I did was I created 3 containers, and again, this wasn't my original idea. This came from Kyle at the admin bar, and so these are 3. Let me open them up. These are. It seems kind of simple, but it's just 3 sets of outer container, inner container, with a different max width for each one. So this first one has 1200, which is what's set as the global max width. And then, oh, did I not change these? Why are these not showing up? I think these were supposed to be. Oh, okay, never mind. I think it's, so it's not, yeah, here it is. This is, yeah, so this is a bit weird, but so the source of this is 768. Okay, so what I did to create these was I made three sets of outer and inner containers with different max widths for the inner container. So you could have like if you have a page that's full width like this, you might want some content to go all the way across. Let's see if there's a good example here. But yeah, then there's other content, like if you have a paragraph, you wouldn't want that to stretch the entire width of, or the entire max width, or the entire width of the site. So so you'd have it, you know, a smaller max width for this one, and depending on your content, you may want smaller or larger than that. So this sets up three things to choose from. And then also you may want to set different mobile settings, like for the padding. Let me go to, I think it's on the outer one. Yeah. Okay, so this one uses so 80 pixels padding on the top and bottom, 24 on the left and right. And then we go to mobile, just close some of these things. You go to mobile, it drops down to 64 and 16. And so if you're normally making a site and you're adding all these sections, it's a pain to have to manually set all these things up every time. So what you can do is you can make a bunch of these preset containers and then save them as synced patterns, and then you can just drop them in where you need them. So so I created these, and then I saved them. These are I'm sorry, I don't know if I said synced. These you do not want to be synced because you want to be able to drop them in and put different content in each one. So you would save it as, you know, demo section or something, and you would turn off synced. Synced would be if you wanted to have, say, like the call to action section with a button, and you wanted to put that in a bunch of different places. And if you wanted to change the button to link somewhere else later, you can do that in one place and it'll update everywhere in your site. That's an example of where you would use a synced pattern. But if you're going to use containers or something like this, where you actually want to have some things that are different, you would make normal non-synced pattern. Okay, so then there's another one with a grid, which is a little hard to see. This is actually three. If we close that panel, then you can see the three columns in that grid. So so I created those as patterns, and then if I wanted to use them here, like on this page, you would type. Okay, so see how I can get. There used to be a way. I think if I do a paragraph. Yeah. Okay. So these were all named with section dash. These are custom things that I made, and you can see like this little icon here. So these are their default width, medium width, and small width, and then the 3-column grid. So once you have these set up, then you can just pull them in by starting to type. And so I can make a medium width, drop it in here, and it has those the padding presets already. So this can save a lot of time. And eventually what I want to do is build up a whole library, or maybe find, something that somebody else has built and shared online, and then just kind of curate that to like the padding numbers and all the other settings that I like, and then use that as a in a way like a starter site where you have a bunch of presets, and you can save a lot of time versus building from scratch. Okay, any questions on patterns?
So you can just use JSON to copy and paste these patterns from one website to another.
I think you can export them too, right?
I thought that's exported with JSON, but
yeah. So well, you have import from JSON, so
okay, no, good.
it's probably let's see, I guess tools showing up.
It's legacy.
I don't know why that says legacy.
Yeah.
Doug, are you wanting an existing library of blocks when you say if maybe somebody else has created it, or would a CSS style framework work for you?
I was thinking somebody like who built it inside GenerateBlocks would have it. I haven't actually looked, but I feel like some of these people who like who do these YouTube channels have probably shared some of their patterns and styles. Maybe you have to pay for it. Maybe some of them are behind a paywall. But I think it would save a lot of time if you don't want to create them all yourself from scratch.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is that the admin bar sections was created prior to Global Blocks, the block styles. So I think probably today he would create those sections, and instead of putting it in the block parameters, he put it in the global style. So you'd have it attached to a global style class. Then it'd be easier replicated.
Yeah, so you would probably have a combination of both patterns and global styles, because you still need the actual blocks to go along with it. The styles aren't actually tied to any particular blocks, which can actually make for some weird things if you if you set styles intended for one, like for a button, but then you apply that style to a container. You can get some weird things.
Yeah. The other advantage is the way you have it set up without the styles is that then you don't need global, you don't need the GenerateBlocks Pro
Yeah.
to create your sections.
The other way to accomplish that is if you have a framework, like there is a framework that works specifically with GenerateBlocks. It's still getting better, so to speak, but I use it. And what you just mentioned with your concept of the medium, small, the different widths that people might want, or somebody might want a full width, all that stuff's already in there. And so you can just throw a class on it and you've got exactly what you just demonstrated.
Yeah.
But then of course you have to use that. So if you're building this for a client,
there's going to be a lot of extra stuff.
Yeah. Well, actually it's less stuff in the end, but it's the concept has to be trained or disseminated to the user. And that's where yours is an advantage here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my thinking is that if you got a library or collection from somebody else, it probably has covers a lot of scenarios. So you might have like, 3 column, 4 columns, 5 columns, whereas the client, you may only use a 3 column grid. And then those other ones are not necessary and they're just kind of taking up space. So I feel like if you brought something in, you'd probably delete a bunch of the preset styles that you're never using.
It's also easier for a client when they're adding a pattern, and they can just look at a pattern that says, section, medium width, small width. That's a little easier to understand than trying to learn a CSS framework.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I think, it might be so I haven't done this with any clients yet, but I'd probably set some kind of prefix, like maybe based on the name of their site. So they could identify which ones are theirs, or with consistent with their design. And so I would tell them like, so say like, PDX WP, if I was doing it for this, for this meetup, and then everything would be, instead of section dash would be like PDX WP dash section dash small width. And I would tell them, only use patterns that start with PDX WP, or only use the styles that you see with this. And then this way it's consistent with the rest of the site. Okay, so these are the patterns. And if you wanted to, I guess I could go into the global styles if there's nothing else on the patterns. Okay. All right, so global styles. So the old method, you would go into a global styles panel, and then they would show up separately, similar to how the patterns show up, and you could create a separate global style in each one, and it looks kind of like this. Close this out. Now, if you go here, you probably don't actually need to go to this page that often, but this is a way to see all the global styles you've created, and the ones that are brought in, like from, like if you use the pattern library, it'll bring some of these things in. So I'll go to the demo of this, but I guess while I'm on this page, I'll show you I created for these, where did it go? So for the patterns, got too many tabs open. Okay, so these are using global styles as well. So this first one is the default, and there's a section, I call this PDX WP section D, and then there's PDX WP wrapper D. And again, this is, just copying from Kyle's video. And then this also uses the same section global style, but a different wrapper. This is M for medium and then S for small. So so these are using global styles, and so that's why they appear here. All the ones before PDX WP were all brought in from GenerateBlocks.
What's, Doug,
So,
what's
yep.
the little three dots over there on the right side? Does that give you?
Oh yeah. So this is
Okay.
interesting. You can, I don't know why you set to draft, but you could do that. Delete style if you don't need it. And this I really like, view CSS. So you can actually see what it's doing, and you can copy it
Right.
if you need to use it for something.
Okay.
So like this one. Nope, there's no styles. It's weird. Okay. So yeah, like this is the 960 max width. And then these were brought in. So you can change, you can edit these, and then they would affect everywhere on your site. And then also they would, in the pattern library, you would see it. But I don't know if there's an easy way to get back to the default. So if you change it, I don't think you could just reset it. You'd probably have to maybe create a new site, demo site, and then just go in there and look at the original CSS. Or there's probably somebody who's copied this and posted it online. But yeah, this is the primary button and all the CSS that's associated with it.
Doug, I had a quick question.
Yep.
Just back where you just were, the edit pencil shows, and you can edit the global styles, but you actually can only edit the names of the global styles, I believe, right?
Yeah, from
Not,
here.
you can't edit the code.
Yeah, so that'll
Neither
be
place.
inside the block editors where you actually edit them.
Yeah, so that's a little,
Yep.
that can be frustrating, I suppose, if you know how you want to change the CSS and you have to go back to the block editor and
yeah, but I think at least what I think is most of my workflow will be inside the editor.
sure.
So let me see if I had another one. Well, I'll create a new one from scratch, I think. All right, so so I'll open up, I already have this open. Okay, so demo page. Okay, so this one, so we'll start with the buttons. I believe it's the theme that's overriding this, and it's making the text color like a bluish color, whereas it's white here. So if we go here, this is GBP button primary. And so I won't touch it on this one, but I'll create a new style. Well, first, I guess I'll show you, oh, is there questions? Let's see, chat. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so if we just wanted to change it by itself, without using global styles, I'll change the text to white. And then let's make the font a little bit bigger so we can see. Let's just do 24 pixels. All right, so that is obviously different. Update that. And so that'll change it here. And, it's not global, so it only changes it in that one spot. Okay, so let's undo that, go back to 16, and then
just hit clear. Yeah.
the text. Yeah. Okay, so I guess I'll change the actually you could just go here and clear the local styles. That would have been easier. Okay, so I'll change. I don't know if I'm going to do this normally, but for this demo, I'm going to actually edit the existing primary button style. So when you click on that, gives you all these options here. And so keep in mind, this global style already applies to all these buttons, and it should apply to these buttons as well. So I will change the typography, text color. Okay, so it says it was white already. Let's see if that actually works. And then let's change text transform to uppercase. So that should be obvious to see. Oh, so sorry. I'm going to make one more change. I will change the font weight to 600. Okay. So I clicked too fast. Okay. So when you click update, it'll tell you that you're actually updating a global style here. And if you have multiple things here, you can check and uncheck what you want to save. And it'll also have, I believe, the page if you made any changes to the actual page content. Okay. So, okay, yeah. So that it changed it to uppercase. It did not change the color. I'm not actually sure why that's not overriding the theme. I
Because
think I got this.
the hover color and you're not on the hover color. And so if you scroll back up just a little bit, you
Yeah.
pick the hover.
Yeah, but this is on the normal state.
Well, all right.
Well, the hover does get darker. Let's see if the hover works. Yeah, this one had white to begin with too.
It picks up drastic.
Sorry?
It picks something that's very much different. So we know it's no question because
Make it yellow.
so close.
Yeah, go with the red that's built in. Let's make both of them the same. Yeah. Okay.
Did you refresh the page?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, let's see the other buttons. If anything else, yeah, they're all the same. Yeah, this happened before when I was testing this out, and I'm not sure why that is. Okay, so I'm going to create a new style. And okay, so let me go back for a second. Okay, so this part is only if you have GenerateBlocks Pro and the global styles. So you don't normally see this little section here. And I don't think you would see any of the global labels either. So if you have a style, you can manage it. So, which is really just edit or remove. And edit does the same thing as if you just clicked right on the style. And this is where you actually change the properties of that style. And you could do main, hover, and then there's some other options, hover and focus icon. And then there's more mobile views and combinations instead of just desktop, tablet, and mobile. And I haven't actually messed around with that, but there's a new, yeah, I guess you could do something else weird, but it's still just the same combination of those three. Okay, so I'll go back out of that. Okay, so this is when you have an existing style, and then if you want to you could add a new style, or you could add another existing style. So when you click on that plus, this is another little weird UI thing because this plus doesn't apply just to this style. It just happens to be next to it. So like now you see a minus, and if you click on this, it doesn't delete this style. It just toggles the thing underneath it. So that's what it does. So I could add another one of these. So like if we wanted, and this can get weird if you have multiple
it's just, can you
Styles.
create a new class?
Yeah. Yep.
Where?
So,
Right there, you just type a name in.
Yeah.
Oh,
All you do is it's the same
Ah,
place, and you just
okay,
type it in.
Oh,
So let's call this PDX WP button 1. I'll create that. So you can do blank style or you clone an existing one. Let's just do blank. And what I'll do is I will change, stick with this until I give up. Let's try to change this back to white. Maybe this new style will override it. Okay, so close out of that. Okay, so this has both GBP button primary and then PDX WP button 1. And again, this doesn't delete the style; it just toggles this thing. So I could always remove this. And again, like if I added some like top padding, you'll see this block local styles. This comes up as a separate item here under the styles. So if I want to get rid of this and any other changes, I can just clear the local block styles by clicking on this. So that's a way to get, like if you started messing around with things and you want everything consistent back to the global styles, you can just clear the styles that way. And I think the old version, it was a very subtle button to clear the local styles and it wasn't as obvious. So now it stands out with the red color. Okay, so only this first button has this new style. Let's see if that works. Okay, I don't remember what I changed elsewhere on the page, but we'll save it anyway. Okay. Okay, so that still didn't do it. Let's see. Okay, so
2024 theme that you're using?
no, this is GeneratePress.
Oh, okay.
There was, well, I thought I had it solved before. I'm trying to remember what I did. Okay, let me clear this and then let's do, I think it works if I do a local style. Let's try that first. Okay, so the local style does override it. Let me go to school styles. Let's see. You know, it might be one of these other things that's overriding it. So actually, I haven't tried this yet, but you can drag the order of this. Actually, no, if it applies from top to bottom, well, I'm not sure about the wording. I would think that if it's at the bottom, it should take precedence, but let's just see what happens here. Let's make the second one use new style. Okay, that didn't do it. Okay, so I guess this will just be a mystery. Put this back. Because I know this worked when I made separate buttons. Must be something else with this this thing. All right, I'm going to create a new section with buttons. And okay, this one will be, oh, God. Okay, so this one comes in default and it does have the white text. Okay, so I will add this button and let's change this. Red background. Why? Okay. Of course, when I do the demo, then all this weird stuff happens. That should. Oh, it's local styles. I think that's doing it. Uh, okay, I think I will look at primary button CSS to see what I'm missing here. Adding a font size. Maybe there's no font size. Or display inline flex. Need that too. There we go. Okay. All right, so I will duplicate this button, put it in the other containers. Okay, so now we've got 3 buttons using this class. I didn't do anything with the hover, but if we want to change this new class, let's just click on this to edit. I'll go to hover. We'll change the background. Okay, so it'll be red, and let's make it a little darker. Okay, and then we can do an effect, box shadow. Okay, that's pretty big. Go 5. Yeah, it still looks a little funny. Okay, but well, you see the point. And I will update this, and this will take effect on all the buttons that's using that same global style. Okay, what else? Yeah, so you can have multiple styles, but it can get confusing, I think, if you don't have a good hierarchy of what, or a good naming system on how you're using them. So like if you had multiple styles for a button, you could have one that controls the size of the button, another one that controls the color, and maybe another one that controls the hover effect. And then you can mix and match them. Like say you had some blue buttons and some red buttons, but you always wanted the same hover effect to be the same hover effect on all those buttons. Then you can, you can use multiple styles and different combinations to get that effect. All right. Any questions on these global styles?
Slightly off topic, but is this application fairly new to your repertoire of
Um,
tools for clients? Or
I'm sorry. Can you speak up a little bit? Sorry.
yeah, is the GenerateBlocks a more recent tool that you've been applying for your client work?
James,
Hey,
you're
James,
pretty muffled.
it sounds like your microphone is against your clothes or something. It's muffled.
Yeah.
We can't understand you.
Can you hear me right now?
Yeah,
Try
Yeah,
again.
yeah, it's better.
That's better.
Is the GenerateBlocks a new application that you've been using for your client work, or have you been using it for a while?
So I started using it, I guess, a couple of years ago, but I haven't. A lot of the clients are on other systems that we haven't migrated over yet. So Beaver Builder, Divi, trying to think if there's anything else. But yeah, so like the newer, if there's a new site or if there's a redesign, I'm trying to go with the block editor. And if I go with the block editor, I'm always going to use GenerateBlocks.
Hmm.
I have GenerateBlocks on every site that I've deployed, no matter what theme it is, including builders.
Okay.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
can use it with, I think just about any theme as long as it's block enabled or block compatible.
So would you say this is sort of similar to like Spectra plugin?
I haven't
Somewhere.
used that one.
Direct editor.
It's the Spectre is a third-party block system, just like GenerateBlocks.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay.
GenerateBlocks is
Any block library out there you can grab and try with stuff. There, of course, is always the question in all of our minds: is there going to be a collision with or a compatibility issue between these different technologies? And I haven't found any with GenerateBlocks. I use it. I've used it with Astra, Bricks, GeneratePress, and Cadence.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It just seems like the way they have things set up, based on what Doug has been showing us, it's pretty thorough in terms of the settings that you're given, which is pretty nice.
That's the main reason I
Yeah.
use it.
yeah.
I think I would use this, for as much as you can. Oh, I see. People leaving. Peter, Scott, thanks for coming. There would be some cases like if you need special functionality, from something else, but you would probably just use it for. You'd probably just bring in like a specialized block or like a few blocks instead of, one of those, all-in-one things where it brings in like 30 or 40 blocks or something like that. If you can find something where, try and think of a good example, but well, like WooCommerce, they have their own blocks. But if you needed, say, like a new WooCommerce block, that, you'd probably just install a plugin for that. But you wouldn't, or I would try to avoid adding a new block plugin, for tabs. I would try to use this one, like GenerateBlocks for tabs, or figure out something like how to configure tabs or the accordion. And the nice thing about this, and I haven't used these too much, but they use the container and the buttons, so it's really like using the other blocks already. And I don't know if there's a way to like make your own tabs using buttons and containers without buying Pro. There's probably a way, but it would be a bunch of custom CSS and but the nice thing is that you can like the rest of the controls are the same. I'll add something here. Let's see, add after. Let's go with tabs. So like So when you work on this, it's a tab block, but it works like the same way as a button would, like you have the same controls over here.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I think I used to have used to use Shortcodes Ultimate a lot. This was before the block editor. And I don't know if anybody else has used that or similar shortcode plugins to achieve things inside the classic editor. But those can get like really confusing to look at, especially if you have a lot of tabs. Your page can get really cluttered.
Yeah, I
Um,
currently have a project where I have to undo basically a lot of old shortcode plugins
yeah,
that has been adapted over the years. So removing
yeah,
those is a nightmare.
yeah. So there is, there's always a risk, I think, when you use, like if you're going to use GenerateBlocks for pretty much everything, like I do. If it was easier, I think it's a little easier now with the headline. I think if you add a headline, I believe, let me see, default. I thought the default has changed. It used to be like an H1, but no, I guess it still does the same thing. Um, okay, never mind. I thought they changed it, so it was either a paragraph or div by default, but I guess they didn't.
No, it's
Um,
two.
Yeah, it's always been an
yeah,
H2. Yeah.
yeah. I thought that, or maybe it's in an upcoming version. I could have sworn I saw
If
a
you're
video, or
if
maybe I'm
you're in
dreaming
a,
about GenerateBlocks.
if you're already in a headline that is marked as a div or a P paragraph, then
Yeah.
if you hit another one, it'll preserve that. It'll stay,
Oh yeah.
it'll be
Okay.
P as well, I believe.
Okay. Is this working? That just changed it to a paragraph after I hit enter. Hmm.
That's because the block editor default for enter is paragraph.
Yeah. Um,
Maybe I'm
yeah.
wrong.
So it's still H2. Well, if it was up to me, like I would change all my paragraphs into headline blocks with the paragraph tag, but it's a little bit of a pain to do that. Like you'd have to click on this and change it. Well, I guess you could select multiples. But Marianne, you've got a question?
Yeah. You're muted, Marianne. You're muted.
There, I'm unmuted. So occasionally you run into websites that have things that are very interactive. So for example, you hover over a block of text and it flips and shows you something else, or you hover over a picture and it flips and shows you a block of text. There's various things that are like very interactive that I don't really put on my website. Does GenerateBlocks add these sort of blocks that can do that?
There are a
And do you
bunch of
have
effects.
do you have an example? Can you show me some examples?
Let's
Because you haven't
see.
sold me yet, Doug. I'm not
No?
ready
Okay.
to buy it. And
All right.
I want to be sold.
The three Dougs will work on you. It's okay.
So there is a transform. Let's see, is there
The rotate.
translate? Or yeah, rotate. Or if you wanted to flip, I guess translate would work. I don't know. How does it? Well, this should be on hover, right? Let's see. Oh yeah, so there's gradients if you like doing that stuff. Let me go to, let's edit the global style. Effects. Oops, hover.
Do you have any that you put on websites that you could just show us the website and say this is what I do?
Nothing fancy like you're talking about.
What fancy?
Most of us try to stay away from fancy from an accessibility standpoint.
Okay. If you like that, it'll move it. I don't know what translate Z is. Maybe do something less than 100. Let's do 20. It's weird. Okay, so I don't know. Translate just moves it, I guess. So rotate, you could do 90 degrees. I don't know why
Okay.
you'd want to do that, but you could do it. um, is there, let's see, what is this? Okay, this is new. It's changed. All right, we have scale. Okay, so you could do like 1.5, get it bigger.
Okay, so you can make it bigger when you hover over it. Okay.
Custom transform. Okay, I don't know what the valid values here, but I guess anything you could do in CSS
Mhm.
with transform, you could do here. Skew, what does skew do?
Yeah.
What's the
Twist it.
difference?
Oh,
Okay,
okay, that's funny. So could you put that same kind of thing on like an image?
I think so.
Yeah. You'll
Let's
do
do
the same with
this.
an image too. Yeah.
I'm not seeing a hover. Let's see
There's
if
the
I
effects on the
create-
bottom.
Yeah,
Fix.
I don't know if this is going to do it for transform. Yeah, so this is just the default. Trying
Okay.
to see if we could do it on hover. I don't know why I'm not. Is there? I guess there's no image hover.
You'd have to wrap it in a link tag or in an
I-
anchor tag, wouldn't
I
it?
think if you use transform down there, if you scroll down and transition to above
Mhm.
there. And I think you got a hover capability there in the state.
Okay.
It says normal. There you go. And that'll do the hover portion.
Okay.
You can make changes here.
Let's add the effect and see what it does.
Yeah, but you got to do a transform, make that in there too.
Okay.
I
I
think
think I had that saved.
it's
Right?
been a
No,
while.
I didn't. State. Oh, here's state hover. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would work for an
Yeah.
image.
No.
Do I need the transition? Maybe I don't even need that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you would just change it to the hover state in here.
Yeah,
So
I
you
think
can rotate.
transition is,
Transition makes it smoother.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you could change like the duration is 0.5 seconds.
mhm.
Could make it like 2 seconds
Oh,
lower.
that's kind of cool.
Mhm.
So you can do that
Um,
with pictures. That is cool, actually.
Yeah. So I don't normally do much stuff like that. But you could.
Does that hurt
and
accessibility to do stuff like that?
I don't know. I mean, if it's over a hover state, well, I mean, it's just CSS styling, right? So,
Mhm.
I mean, it's not. I don't know the answer, but I'm thinking it doesn't change the content, so the screen reader should read it the same.
So one of the ones I thought of was if you have an image, let's say it's a tree, and you touch the block, you hover over the block, it flips over and says what kind of tree it is, or something like that.
Oh yeah, like a card.
Like a flashcard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you do that?
I think you're going to need some CSS for that.
A total flip with
Yeah.
new content on the other side.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would let you do it here with these blocks.
Okay.
That's something I've seen in page builders, but not
Hmm.
in GenerateBlocks.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot you can do with these. Maybe if you had to have that, maybe you could find it in another block plugin that wasn't loaded, or maybe you could turn off certain blocks so it doesn't have to load everything.
Okay. Can you, using the headline block, are you able to bring in a specific font for one specific headline?
Yeah, should be able to.
It's like maybe all your headlines are, normal headlines, but then you have one that's like a fancy writing or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it that's a theme control.
Good.
So you'd either set it, if it's a classic theme, you'd set it in the customizer, or if it's a block theme, you'd set it in the global styles.
Yeah, I'd say unless you're absolutely certain you're only going to use it in that one spot, you would want to make a style for it.
Okay.
And with GenerateBlocks Pro, you could also set a class. You could add a class on it.
Okay. That would bring in a certain font for that. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to have a font on your system, on your site, but still.
Yeah, I think like if you use this and you keep this checked, it'll load it from Google, which you may not want to do. But I think Marianne, you had mentioned a plugin for hosting Google Fonts locally.
Yeah.
So like you could use that, and then you turn off the Google Fonts API, and then it would actually show up there. Like right now, when I have this on, it does change to Oswald, but as soon as I click this off, it goes back to normal.
Okay. Yeah, so that would allow me to pick the font in that spot. Okay.
Yeah, normally like I try not to change that on the block level. Mostly, I always think about, am I going to remember where this was changed later on? So as nice as it is to have all these options, that's that much more stuff that, is specific to that block. So, whatever you can do, you can save in global styles. Like it just keeps things more organized, and then like if you need to change it later, it can change everywhere. And I think as far as I know, like there's the Find My Blocks plugin, where you can find the blocks that you're using.
Mhm.
If you need to find where the global styles are that you're using, I guess you just search like in the pages menu and the posts menu.
Okay.
Like for this one, what did I have? PDX WP -button -1. So if I go to, because it's in the content, so button 1. So that'll bring up demo page 1. And then I guess you'll still have to find it on the page.
Sure.
But if you were trying to reorganize your global styles, or just kind of get rid of some, or see if there's any that you're not using,
Mhm.
you just search. I guess you can just go here, copy and paste it without the period. And I don't know if it will work. Let's see if it works for the patterns as well. Or chat. Thanks, Gene. Affiliate link. I don't know. Pixel Jar asking about affiliates.
Some of those transforms were pretty good. I like some of
Yeah.
those.
See if I could find the actual name of this one. Did I call it? Was it? Yeah, I don't know if there's an ID or something, but yeah, I'm not sure if you can find where the patterns are being used, but
Okay.
there's probably, I'm sure there's a way. But yeah, like this could easily get crazy, I would imagine. Like this has, this pulls in what is that, like a dozen or so
Yeah.
from the default, and then I just added a few of them.
Right.
There's no search on there too, so that would be tough if you get really.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could always just run a find
Isn't it alphabetical?
on there. I believe it's the order in which you created them.
Okay. Yeah.
And then those, like the newest ones, take precedence over the older ones.
I believe it says at the top, if you reorder them, you're adjusting the cascade.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So in other words, you know how when you're writing CSS, it's not working, and so you throw an important on everything.
right.
Instead of doing that, you could come here and do it right. If you knew exactly which one you're working at, you can change the order of them and fix your problem without having to use an important.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
That's the
I
idea.
think, like, if this, like how it shows you the CSS, I'm guessing it's like this is all, if it was all printed out as CSS, it
Uh-huh.
would be the same order as if you just were in the customizer and put all this in manually. So whatever's at the bottom would take precedence over what's before.
Okay.
So anyway, the naming I think is probably important. I haven't learned this, but this is using the BEM
Yes,
naming
yes.
convention.
Yeah, I think that's what Kyle uses.
Yeah, Kyle from the admin bar, he uses that. I think the other videos I've seen use it. And if you're, because GenerateBlocks brings in this naming format, I think it's a good idea to learn it, and just so you can be consistent with how they're naming things.
What is the BEM naming convention?
So I believe it stands for Block Element Modifier.
Yep.
And there's a couple of sites I looked at. CSS Tricks, I think, is always good.
Yeah, it's just a way to structure your classes.
Okay.
So I haven't fully wrapped my head around it, but like you could use something like this where you have 3 classes for buttons and then like a class for the price, a class for the text.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, Get BEM was another one that I had found. Oops. Yeah, so this one, and then I don't understand this yet. I have to learn more CSS. But you could,
That's the
I think
new
once,
that's the new nesting in CSS.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
Wow.
I think once
You're,
you
you're
get
adding
used to it.
you're adding complexity to the BIM part there. It's real basic. It's the type of thing where once you stick your toe in the water, you start realizing like, well, this is the way to do it. Why would anybody not use this? It's
Yeah.
an organizational concept, is all it is.
Wow. I'll have to research that a little bit.
You can do a presentation and teach us what you learned.
Maybe I will.
This is how you volunteer other people to do things.
It is, isn't it? I, you know what? I'll look at it because I am really good at annotating my CSS whenever I make any changes. And I should look into it. I can teach people how to do it.
Yeah, that's okay. There, you just triggered the best way to explain it. The whole reason for it is so you can look at the class you just made, and by the name of it, you know exactly what it does.
Right.
That's the whole catalyst as to where it came from.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time too, so it's well worn. It's good.
All right, I think we went a while, so I don't know if anybody has any other questions about this, or we could open it up to other non-generate blocks stuff.
I think that you gave a really good presentation, very thorough. And
Thanks.
I like the transform and the flippy stuff and how to change it, and that might be worth looking at for me.
Yeah.
For a few things.
Yeah, I think you can do that stuff in the free version of GenerateBlocks.
Okay.
Actually, I can tell you.
I thought that was more of a pro version, but maybe you're right.
Let's
I don't
see.
know.
Let's do headline. Sorry, you're right. I lied about that. Yeah,
Pro
you don't get the
version.
effects here.
Dynamic effects. There's no dynamic effects.
Well, that's
You
dynamic.
do get dynamic data though,
It's really
which
good.
is actually
What is
pretty
dynamic
useful.
data?
Like advanced
Um,
custom fields
Yeah.
being used for that.
So you can, yeah. So I'd say it's probably more useful when you have generate press as a theme and you can use elements, which is like the templates that affect the whole site.
Mm-hmm.
But here you could use see right here, like using the current post doesn't make sense because this is just a page. But if you were editing your like your post template, that is the structure for all your posts, then you could have like you could put the post meta, in and style that, and then you could, just assemble all the parts of that post template right here in the block editor
Mm-hmm.
and style them appropriately. So for this one, like, maybe if you had custom posts, like if you were just using the free version, you post type and say you had like testimonials as your own custom post type, then maybe you could do, you could select the post type and then, actually for this headline, I mean, you're only picking one thing. So I don't know how useful
you change
it
the
is. You'd probably use the,
you would change the select post type to testimonials,
yeah,
but you don't have it there. So
yeah,
it's but
yeah, but yeah, but I think on like a headline by itself, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but you'd probably use a query loop, which we didn't
Yeah.
really
Mhm.
go into.
on a headline you could pick like post title, and that would dynamically put the post title into the headline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put the featured image in there and a few other things too.
Yeah. So, so in the query loop here, this post title, like this is a good way to see how dynamic data is being used.
Mm-hmm.
So like this post title has dynamic data already enabled, current post title, the link source is the post, the image is the featured image, the post date is, let me close these things. Post date, excerpts, and then you could add other stuff like the meta comments and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've used this on a client site to make with Generate Press to make to override or to make the regular blog template and the archive templates. And you could do a lot of fancy things that like before this, I would have to make like PHP templates to get all of the data that I wanted and like in the right order.
Mm-hmm.
And with this, you could do it inside the editor and you could do the styling without writing custom CSS, which, I've gotten used to doing, but I feel like it's a lot faster. It's safer, to not have like hundreds or thousands of lines of CSS that you have to sort through.
Right.
Doug, have you run into any problems using this query loop with, you use ACF, correct?
Yeah.
Have you ran into any issues there?
I don't think so.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you haven't used MetaBox, have you?
I have not. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it only works with advanced custom fields on their query loop there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a weird thing with I don't know if it's GenerateBlocks or GenerateBlocks, but sometimes the dynamic data doesn't update in the editor, and you have to view it on the front end. So just be aware of that.
That could also just be the block editor.
Yeah, that could be. And then there's also like, like some things, I guess this is, just the block editor as well, but like how this looked different in the editor than on the front end. Like
Well,
some of the styles didn't come
That's totally
translate over.
that's totally the block editor, because the block editor, the front and the back are different. They're not the same. That's why when in our help desk calls, we always tell people, don't use the preview button, use the save and go look at the actual page, because the preview button is using back end stuff and it's not the same as the front end. You know, I don't know. DK was talking about frameworks a while ago. ACSS is one of those frameworks, and Patrick just put out a post last week. It's like, oh, we had hoped to have ACSS 3 out, but we ran into a problem with the Gutenberg block editor, and that sometimes it loads things one way, sometimes it loads them another way. Sometimes the editor loads in a frame, sometimes it doesn't load the frame. And so, the discrepancies in how the block editor even loads things is driving the team to delay their release of their product.
Well, it's never ending, because once they think they have it, then the core team will throw another wrench into things later.
Yeah, and we have a new version coming next month, so that'll be interesting to see too. A lot of new things coming in with 6.6.
Oh, let me post those links again.